Well, today we're going on this deep dive, into this super cool idea
Okay.
about using all five senses. Like not just, reading and listening.
Oh, wow. So we're going beyond the usual, huh?
Exactly. We found this really interesting bit in an episode of the English Dose podcast.
Okay.
They call it, get this, the five senses trick.
A trick, huh? I'm a bit skeptical, but definitely curious.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But honestly, it makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
All right, let's hear it. How do you learn English with your nose?
Not just your nose, all of them. So they talk about like labeling things around your house in English, like,
Right.
table, chair, whatever. So you're seeing the words and connecting them to the actual object.
Makes sense. We do tend to remember things better when we can actually see them.
Right. And then for hearing, it's kind of what you'd expect, like really immersing yourself in English. So
Yeah.
music, podcasts, audiobooks, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's classic language learning advice. But I can see how this trick frames it in a new light.
Totally. And it goes way beyond that. They talk about cooking and how you can describe like
Right.
the actions you're doing and the flavors in English.
Oh, interesting. So that's bringing in touch and taste, right?
Yeah. And even smell. Like if you're smelling something, try to describe the aroma.
I see. So the whole point is to connect the language to actual physical experiences.
Exactly. And what's really cool is how this aligns with like actual learning principles.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more.
Now, think about it. Like when you use more than one sense, you're way more likely to remember something.
Absolutely. It's like multisensory learning, right?
Yeah. Like, how we say learning by doing? It's because we're engaging so many of our senses at the same time.
Right. So instead of just passively reading a textbook, you're actually interacting with the language, using it to describe your real-world experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that active part is key. Like even with the labeling thing, right?
Right.
You're not just seeing the word, you're having to like pull it out of your memory every time you look at the object.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's like active recall, which is super important for solidifying learning.
Exactly. And English Dose talked about this other thing that totally reminded me of flashcards.
Flashcards, how so?
Well, they were talking about how, like, if you hear a phrase over and over again, it really helps you remember it.
Oh, right. So it's the repetition that's key here, right? The more you encounter something, the more it sticks.
Oh, exactly. And it's like flashcards, the more you review them, the better you know them.
That's a great analogy. And there's actual science behind this, you know?
Really?
Yeah, it's called spaced repetition. Basically, every time you come across a word or phrase, you're strengthening those neural pathways in your brain.
Neural pathways.
Yeah, they're like the connections between your brain cells that help you store and retrieve information. And there's this part of your brain called the hippocampus. Okay.
It's like the memory center, and it plays a big role in solidifying those connections through repeated exposure.
So even if you just hear a phrase like a bunch of times, it can actually make a difference.
It really can. It might seem simple, but our brains are wired to learn through repetition.
Wow. And thinking back to like the cooking example, it's not just the senses, right?
Right. What else is there?
It's like you're actually connecting the words to something you're experiencing, something you're feeling even.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's like adding an emotional layer to the learning process.
Yes. And that's got to be super powerful for memory, right?
Absolutely. When you connect emotions to information, it becomes more meaningful, more memorable. Think about it. How did you learn your first language?
I guess through just experiencing the world, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Not just from memorizing words on flashcards. It was all about interaction, experimentation, and experiencing the world around you.
That's so true. So we've got like multisensory learning, active recall, and emotional connection all rolled into one. Exactly. It's a powerful combination for language learning.
But I do wonder, are some senses better for learning English than others?
That's a great question. But honestly, I don't think there's one right answer.
Okay.
It really depends on the person, you know? Some people might be super visual learners, while others might learn best through sound.
Makes sense. Like some people are really into flashcards and others hate them.
Exactly. The key is to experiment, play around with different approaches, and see what clicks for you.
Totally. So any tips for our listeners on like how to actually use this five senses trick?
Well, first off, don't get overwhelmed trying to use all five senses at once. It's okay to start small.
Yeah, that sounds less scary.
Right. Like maybe pick one new word each day and try to experience it in different ways. See it written down, hear it spoken, try to use it in a sentence, maybe even connect it to a smell or a taste if you can.
Ooh, that's a cool challenge.
It is. And the most important thing is to just make it a habit. Even if you only do a little bit each day, over time, it'll make a big difference.
Yeah, consistency is key.
Exactly.
Well, this deep dive has been amazing. I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for learning English now.
Me too. It's so cool to think about how our senses can be such powerful tools for learning.
It really is. And who knows, maybe there are even more ways to use our senses that we haven't even discovered yet.
Now, there's a thought. Maybe we
Okay.
can learn English through telepathy one day.
Huh, that would be amazing. All right, well, until next time, keep diving deep, everyone.
Yeah, keep exploring and keep learning.
See ya.
Bye.